The story of one of Los Angeles's most destructive fires is not just about flames and devastation. It's also a tale of relentless investigation, cross-country pursuit, and a community's search for answers. The investigation took a dramatic turn far from California, stretching all the way across the country to the quiet suburbs of Florida, where the suspect had tried to start a new life. On October 7, 2025, federal agents moved in and arrested Jonathan Rinderknecht, 29, near his new home in Florida. The arrest was the result of a coordinated effort between local law enforcement, federal agencies, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, who had been tracking Rinderknecht's movements for weeks. Rinderknecht was charged with destruction of property by means of fire, a serious federal offense that carries the possibility of decades behind bars. The charges reflect the gravity of the crime and the scale of the destruction left in the fire's wake. Investigators allege that Rinderknecht single-handedly started the blaze that would become known as the massive Palisades Fire. According to court documents, evidence collected at the scene pointed directly to human involvement, and forensic analysis linked the ignition point to materials found in Rinderknecht's possession. The arrest was the culmination of months of painstaking investigation by both local and federal authorities, including the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Teams of investigators combed through the charred landscape, piecing together clues from the ashes, interviewing witnesses, and analyzing surveillance footage from the area. For residents of Pacific Palisades, the news of an arrest brought a complicated mix of emotions. There was relief that someone had been held accountable, but also a sense of disbelief and lingering anxiety about how such a tragedy could have happened in their own backyard. The fire had destroyed dozens of homes, forced hundreds to evacuate, and left entire neighborhoods in ruins. For many, the loss was not just physical, but emotional, a shattering of the community's sense of safety and belonging. The idea that the fire was the result of arson was deeply unsettling. Yet, the arrest of a suspect offered a focal point for the community's grief and a first step toward healing. Vigils and memorials became places for residents to come together, share their stories, and begin to process the trauma. The legal case against Rinderknecht will unfold in the coming months, with prosecutors promising to reveal more details about the events leading up to that fateful night. The trial is expected to draw national attention, as the community and the country look for answers and justice. No matter the outcome, the impact of the Palisades Fire is already a permanent part of Los Angeles's history, a stark reminder of the devastation that a single act can unleash, and the resilience of a community determined to rebuild. Before the fire, Jonathan Rinderknecht was working as an Uber driver on New Year's Eve 2024. The city was alive with celebration, the streets pulsing with anticipation as people hurried to parties and gatherings. For most, it was a night of hope and new beginnings. But for Jonathan, the evening felt different, heavy, tense, and filled with a sense of unease that seemed to grow with every passing hour. Passengers later described him as unusually agitated and angry, simmering with frustration. Some recalled how he gripped the steering wheel tightly, his jaw clenched, and his responses curt. He barely made eye contact, and his mood seemed to darken with each ride. The festive energy outside contrasted sharply with the storm brewing inside his car. His final ride took him to Pacific Palisades, a quiet, affluent neighborhood far from the city's chaos. There, he tried and failed to contact a former friend, someone he hadn't spoken to in years but who clearly still weighed on his mind. The unanswered call seemed to deepen his sense of isolation. Investigators believe this failed connection may have been the final trigger. They pieced together a timeline from phone records and witness statements, concluding that this moment marked a turning point in Jonathan's state of mind. Alone in his car, rejected and frustrated, Rinderknecht made a fateful decision. He sat in silence for several minutes, staring out at the empty streets, wrestling with his emotions. The weight of loneliness and disappointment pressed down on him, leaving him feeling invisible and powerless. He left his car and walked up a dark, unlit trail into the hills. The night was quiet, except for the distant sounds of fireworks and laughter echoing from the city below. Each step he took seemed to carry him further away from the world he knew, and deeper into his own troubled thoughts. On the hilltop, he took videos of the city lights, capturing the sprawling city as it glittered in the distance. He repeatedly listened to a rap song associated with fire, the lyrics echoing in his mind. The music seemed to fuel his agitation, amplifying his anger and sense of alienation. This detail became crucial for investigators, suggesting fire was already on his mind. The videos and music choices provided insight into his mental state, painting a picture of a man teetering on the edge, searching for meaning or release. The combination of anger, rejection, and his choice of music created a volatile mix. Alone in the darkness, Jonathan's emotions spiraled, and the boundaries between thought and action began to blur. What happened next would change countless lives, leaving a scar on the city and forever altering the course of that New Year's Eve. In the early hours of January 1, 2025, while most of the city was still asleep and the world was wrapped in the quiet anticipation of a new year, something unexpected was about to unfold in Pacific Palisades. The peaceful silence that blanketed the neighborhood was suddenly and violently interrupted, shattering the sense of calm that had settled over the community. According to authorities, a man named Rinderknecht made his way up a remote hillside trail under the cover of darkness. He spent time there, recording videos and listening to music, seemingly alone in the stillness of the night. But then, something far more serious happened. Investigators allege that Rinderknecht started a fire at the very top of the hill. What began as a single, small point of ignition would soon become known as the Lochman Fire. Detectives quickly began piecing together the events of that night. Using advanced technology, they traced cell phone data and digital footprints, placing Rinderknecht at the exact spot where the fire began. The hillside was covered in dry brush, brittle from weeks without rain. As soon as the flames touched the grass, the fire spread with alarming speed, transforming from a spark into a growing blaze in a matter of minutes. Cell tower records would later reveal that Rinderknecht's phone was the only device active in that remote area at the critical moment, further strengthening the case against him. As the fire grew, its orange glow became visible from the neighborhoods below, casting an eerie light over the sleeping homes and alerting residents to the danger creeping closer. The landscape itself made matters worse. The steep, rugged terrain was thick with chaparral and overgrown brush, providing the perfect fuel for a wildfire to explode out of control. In these conditions, even a single spark can be catastrophic. The area was a tinderbox, and the risk of a major fire was well known to both residents and firefighters alike. With the fire now burning and the wind beginning to pick up, the stage was set for a disaster that could threaten not just the hillside, but the entire community below. As the Lochman fire grew, Rinderknecht's first instinct was alarm. He tried to call 911, but poor reception on the trail meant his calls failed. Alone and unable to summon help, he fled down the trail to his car. Driving away, he saw fire engines racing toward the blaze. Instead of leaving, he turned around and returned to the scene. From a hidden vantage point, he recorded videos of the fire and firefighters. This act of returning to watch and document the chaos became key evidence. Arsonists often returned to the scene, drawn by fascination or a sense of power. Rinderknecht's recordings provided a first-person view of the fire's early stages. He was both the alleged perpetrator and a witness to the destruction. Firefighters quickly contained the Lochman fire, believing the danger had passed. The blaze was suppressed, and homes were spared, at least for the moment. But beneath the surface the fire was not truly extinguished. A holdover fire smoldered underground, hidden in the roots and duff. For nearly a week, embers crept unseen through the earth. The right conditions could bring it back to life at any moment. Fire investigators later explained that the fire was essentially hibernating. Residents resumed their lives, unaware of the hidden threat above. This quiet continuation was the critical link between the small blaze and the coming catastrophe. The stage was set for disaster to strike again. On January 7, 2025, strong Santa Ana winds swept through Los Angeles. The winds fanned the underground embers back to life, reigniting the fire. Multiple points of flame erupted across the hillside, fueled by relentless gusts. The Palisades Fire exploded, overwhelming local firefighting resources. Evacuation orders were issued as flames raced toward homes. Residents scrambled to flee as smoke blotted out the sun. The destruction was swift. Vegetation and multi-million-dollar homes burned. Ironically, the home where Rinderknecht had been staying was among those destroyed. The fire he allegedly started had come full circle, destroying his own residence. The Palisades Fire became one of the most destructive in Los Angeles history. When the winds died down, the devastation was clear. Thousands of acres of natural habitat were reduced to ash. The ecological damage was immense, with risks of mudslides looming. Dozens of homes were destroyed, displacing hundreds of residents. The emotional toll was profound. Families lost homes, memories, and security. The fire strained city resources and cost tens of millions to fight. Recovery would be slow, with rebuilding and new discussions about fire safety. The Palisades Fire left a lasting scar on Los Angeles, both physically and psychologically. The case against Rinderknecht relied on modern technology. With no eyewitnesses, investigators used his digital trail to build their case. Cell tower data placed his phone at the fire's origin at the exact time it started. His iPhone videos and music choices suggested a preoccupation with fire. Recordings of the blaze served as self-incrimination. Witnesses described his agitation, helping establish motive. Physical evidence matched the digital data, creating a compelling case. This convergence allowed prosecutors to confidently file charges. The Palisades Fire is a stark reminder of wildfire's lasting impact. Residents who lost homes faced daunting recovery and emotional trauma. Even those spared felt a new sense of vulnerability and anxiety. The fire changed the community's relationship with the landscape. The case against Rinderknecht shows how one act can devastate thousands. The legal process will determine his fate, but the lesson is clear. The community's resilience shone through as neighbors helped each other rebuild. The scars, on the hills and in memory, will remain. The Palisades Fire stands as a powerful lesson in the destructive potential of a single spark.